move over Jurassic series, there's a new kid on the block. And when I mean by kid, I mean dinosaur. And get it? Because, dinosaur, this movie where neighborhood, you know what am I talking about?
I don't need you to worry for me, 'cause I'm alright.
The End of Oak Street is directed and written by David Robert Mitchell. The film stars Anne Hathaway, Ewan McGregor, Maisy, Stella, and Christian Convery. According to IMDb's plot synopsis, the Platt family bands together to navigate their new surroundings after a cosmic event transports their suburban neighborhood to someplace unknown. Jurassic Park/World series has been the only major studio dinosaur series that gets made to this day. It is the only film of this caliber that gets the money and resources to be big enough to still go on. As much as people can say that this franchise has outstayed its welcome and has pretty much died off, regardless, it brings in a lot of money for Universal. And again, it is the only sort of dinosaur-esque film that is being out there and being profitable. Otherwise, most dinosaur films are usually B movies that are on the low end of being straight to streaming or DVD. Pretty much that is what it is. You're not going to get movies that compete with Jurassic Park/World. You're just going to get bargain bin films that get made that you'll probably come across and you'll probably watch and think it's probably either terrible or just fun and just a guilty pleasure time. That you don't mind them, but you also understand like the quality between one series over another is vastly different. However, director and writer David Robert Mitchell of It Follows fame teams up with J.J. Abrams as producer to focus on a family and their neighborhood being transported and surviving prehistoric times. And look, yeah, regardless of how you feel about J.J. Abrams at the moment and what he has done with two franchises that have pissed them both off, his name does bring weight. Add on having stars Anne Hathaway, who is having an excellent summer. I mean, just look at the movies that she's having this year. It's like, man, she is going to be comfortable at the very least for next year in terms of how much she is raking in. And Ewan McGregor, who is always somebody that I think a lot of people on the internet, or at the very least, a lot of people appreciate seeing in films. And, Star Wars fans always get a kick out of him every time he always says hello there, every single time. I was very curious to see a dinosaur film outside of the Jurassic Park/World series to compete with, or at the very least just exist. I think that's more of my point. As long as it's there to just kind of showcase that, like, there can be other dinosaur films to exist when you have the big franchise out there that is still going on. You could still have a movie that focuses on dinosaurs and not have to feel like it needs to be given so much money to be beloved. All that said, it was a good time, albeit with some laughable parts that trips itself. And yes, there are some constant moments in this movie where the movie just decides to do this, and I'm just like, wait, what? Why are we doing this? But okay, sure. Before discussing my problems, my issues, here are the positives that I found. The performances are enjoyable. The cast, mainly Hathaway and McGregor, brings seriousness and enjoyment as the film goes on, bringing their best effort. This isn't like the greatest thing ever made. It's a dinosaur film, okay? So I'm at least expecting like enjoyment with a bit of seriousness and maybe some laughs here and there. But overall, that's what I come to expect when it comes to a dinosaur movie. Anne Hathaway, she brings the seriousness, the gravitas that comes with her being the mother of this family and sort of the rigid feeling that she has on how she views her life and how it's been for her entire family to go through. Ewan McGregor is the father who is trying to keep everything together and just work things out and hopefully be there for his family. And the both of them I really like. I think they have good chemistry with one another, and they were really just exciting to watch as the film kept on going and showcasing their survival. I really like appreciating seeing these actors just come together and just work this out in terms of being in a film like this and showcasing their love and appreciation for what they do. The direction is effective. Director David Robert Mitchell brings terror and intensity with keeping the family struggle and dinosaur sequences as thrilling as they should. allowing for scary moments to be brutal as well. I was quite surprised on how brutal this film can get, and for a movie that is PG-13, I do think that there were times that they did push that rating in terms of some of the ways people die in this movie, and it really felt terrifying. I'll give the movie credit. Unlike how Jurassic World, where they'll have terrifying moments, for the most part, they try to blend in with some silliness and whatnot. I like the fact that this movie reminds you, no, these dinosaurs are dangerous. Like, they're scary. Like, they are not creatures to mess around with. Like, these things will come at you in packs and hunt you down. And I quite enjoyed the fact that David Robert Mitchell wanted to put the emphasis on how the family struggles on surviving in prehistoric times, showcases how much these dinosaurs were extremely dangerous and versatile with regards to finding and just devouring food in sight. And again, the way he is able to handle and maneuver characters around areas and inside houses, I thought he did an incredible job with making you feel the fear of what dinosaurs are like. The cinematography is smooth. Cinematographer Mike Galatas shoots a flowing and terrifying movie by showcasing the different types of creatures and moving throughout the neighborhood. The usage of tracking was solid when it happens. There are some instances where tracking is used in this film, and it's done very well. I do like the usage of using their environment around them, especially at first when they're trying to hide the dinosaurs and build up the suspense of what these dinosaurs would look like. And he does that very well in building up the suspense and mystery by utilizing just the way in which the environment is and how small and cramped things are, because that's what they're utilizing. They're utilizing homes, they're utilizing other neighbors' houses. And I found it to be a really good use of using space as pretty much a disadvantage. In the open range, we're going to get caught by these dinosaurs and whatnot, but in smaller areas, you will be safe for a bit, but then things will find its way into the house or houses, and it makes things much more intense. And I really think that it was just utilized well to where it makes it feel claustrophobic. It makes you feel like these tight spaces could kind of leave the family at a disadvantage. Like I said, it's a beautiful looking film for a movie of this caliber. I was kind of surprised on how well everything just flowed naturally into places. The music is suspenseful. Composer Michael Giacchino brings horror and thrills that helps add tension, keeping up with the rest of the movie. Michael Giacchino, once again, I know I'm going to be glazing this man a lot of times, but the way he handles the score is so good. There's nobody like him that is able to just tap into this sort of wonder, awe, and suspense like he does. He's almost like, in a way, like a mini John Williams, except he's gone beyond to do other works with regards to not just being like John Williams, but I'm just saying, like, when he does do that, he does it so well. He just knows how to just find what makes a project interesting and just know how to harness it. And to me, the guy is still working to this day, and it shows how much of an amazing composer he is. The story is wild. Following this family trying to survive in their neighborhood from dinosaurs was both fun and exciting to watch. It may have its bits of awkwardness, but it's still a good time. And yes, there are the occasional things in this movie that I just had to sit back and be like, huh, all right, I didn't think that would go there, but okay, sure. But otherwise, I was enjoying with what this movie had to offer. I didn't mind the Platt family, even if I could say they're not the smartest on a high IQ level, but I don't mind them. I think they're likable enough to where, like, they weren't like annoying me 24/7. I was at least enjoying with who they were and their lives and how life is like for them prior to going back to prehistoric times. I was interested in where things were going, and overall, even if I could talk about my issue with this film in a bit, I ultimately didn't mind what the film was, and overall had a fun time with it. The production is done well. Seeing the sets being built and being destroyed was impressive to show, putting thought into utilizing the setting. And yes, you could say, well, it's set in the 1980s, so how hard can that be? And you're right. I mean, it's not hard when it comes to like the clothing and whatnot, but I gotta say, man, the fact that they are able to build sets or utilize like houses that they had to actually build for this movie is pretty cool. I think that's awesome to see them kind of, at the very least, put their money into good use of sets and houses that they had to build from the outside and the inside sequences. I like it. I think it's impressive to see for a production of this scale, which is, I believe, only in the like 80 to $90 million range. It's not very high, like past 100 million. But overall, I think that was a good use of money on what to use practically, and then save the rest for the other thing that I also found interesting with this film. The visuals are amazing. All the dinosaurs and creatures look detailed enough to be consistent. It was also nice to see more accurate looking dinosaurs than the usual. And when I say usual, Jurassic Park has kind of conditioned us into thinking dinosaurs don't have feathers. That's always been the thing. And of course, as time has gone on, we have found out more. No, they did. They were more like birds or amphibious. And I like the fact that this movie said, no, we're going to utilize what has been told and what has been said. And I really think the design on all the creatures looked really good. And sure, there are some maybe wonky moments here and there, but for the most part, the dinosaurs looked incredible. They looked really awesome to see, and I think they blended it so well to where it wasn't enough to ruin the entire experience or kind of throw you off. It felt like it was still staying consistent with itself throughout the entire runtime. It was a roller coaster, but it does hit some harsh bumps that are very noticeable and things that did kind of irk me in some of the strange and just bizarre ways that it does, and things that I legit have gripes about. So here are now the negatives. The ending is convoluted. How the movie quickly wraps up and finds a solution was both messy and lazy, pretty much copying out on its choices. There's something that happens at the end, or there's a thing that the family discovers, and that's pretty much the answer to their solution. Now, look, I could say that it is laziness, and I already did say it was. But I was willing to give it the benefit of the doubt because there was a choice in the movie, in which, by the way, not spoiling anything. I'm just saying something happens in the movie, and I thought that was pretty ballsy and quite impressive. I was like, okay, we're gonna do this. All right, sure. Maybe if nothing else happens that isn't like super hugely crazy, that's fine. But if they try to do something bold for an ending, I'd be very impressed. Unfortunately, they chose the most copped out ending ever, and to me, that's what it sells on being lazy to me, and also just really being messy, because it just kind of feels like they just didn't want to go down that route of being dour. They chose the most happy ending ever, and to me, I'm just left wondering, like, probably not the best choice, because it just kind of seems like it was just a cheap ending. Then it just throws everything into question, and you just are left wondering, man, this kind of makes me question how all this works. And so you're kind of thinking to yourself, maybe they shouldn't have answered this. Maybe this should have just been a bleaker movie than what was given. The writing is inconsistent. Writer David Robert Mitchell goes back and forth between being silly and horrifying, leading to a struggle with how this movie comes out. There are moments in this movie where there are some serious moments with the family, which I really like. I like the family dynamic in the film, and when they're facing with the dinosaurs. Now, I don't mind having funny moments or silly parts in a movie. But my whole point is that if you're gonna have them, okay, if you're going to, I would like it if it wasn't super silly. Unfortunately, this movie tries to at times be super silly to where I just am wondering why. Because there are points where I'm like, this did not need to be here. Especially one particular section involving dinosaurs and Ewan McGregor. Don't know what was the point of that, but sure, why not? But to me, it just kind of feels like it's battling itself out over, does it want to be horrifying, or does it not try to take itself seriously and try to be jokey about it? It's very much a tug and pull on what it wants to be. Editing is all over. Cuts would feel too chaotic and much, even in quiet parts. Also, the amount of split screens is ridiculous. Now, if for those who don't know, split screens were very common in films and was then prominent with Brian De Palma movies. So if you look at some of his catalogs and you see in some of his films, you'll notice there are sometimes an actor in like one side of the frame that's like almost like a close-up, and on the other is like a much more further away shot. And you get a lot of that in this movie, and man, it gets to a point where I'm like, this is too much. Look, I understand you have influences, you have things that you want to have for characters in this movie to feel like you see the reaction of a person versus the person that's explaining it to them. I understand, but it does get to a threshold to where you're like, I don't think you need to do this all that much. And like I said, when it comes to the dinosaur sequences, sometimes it's fine, but I do feel like at other times it just goes into chaotic range of like quick cut editing that it almost becomes distracting. Though smaller than the Jurassic films, The End of Oak Street provides the thrills and excitement that the counterpart series has been lacking for quite a bit. Driven by its direction, cinematography, and music, it gives Hathaway and McGregor's performances more to strive for, while its ending, writing, and editing hampers the film's result. It's a nice alternative compared to the stale Jurassic series that it's become. And while there are two movies that are given the same rating as this film, overall, I do think Jurassic Park has kind of weighed down its sort of ideas on what it should strive for, whereas this is an original concept. It does pull apart from some things, but overall, I found myself having a good time with it, and if you just want a good dinosaur movie to get a kick out of, I think you'll enjoy this one. I'm going to give The End of Oak Street a 7 out of 10. Quite fun, quite enjoyable. It's nice to see Anne Hathaway and Ewan McGregor team up in this movie and fight dinosaurs. As much as that sounds ridiculous to say, I got quite the kick out of watching this movie, and for, again, even if it's not the greatest dinosaur movie, it's just a nice alternative. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just perfectly fine for what it is, even if those negatives do make things a little complicated. So I will be soon doing a review for Tony. So yes, look forward to that review and other reviews coming soon.